Today we want to try and beat every single Pokemon champion, and there is a lot of them, as Alain. I asked and over 50% of you voted and you chose Alain. He's a very powerful trainer who beat Ash in the finals of the Kalos League. He has access to some incredibly powerful Pokemon like Mega Charizard, Tyranitar, Metagross and more. This should be quite an easy challenge in later games, but early on we're going to have to play smart so we don't lose anyone. We can also add some rules like the ones on the screen to make it even harder for ourselves. Also, as a side note, I won't be playing remakes of the same champion, so if we play Fire Red, we won't play Red. Let's get started. First up is Pokemon Yellow, and we have the champion for this game, Blue. We only have 3 Pokemon right now. This could potentially be rough, but we have solid coverage on our Pokemon. Blue's lead is Pidgeot, and we lead off with our specially designed attacker, Tyranitar. We outspeed the Bird Jesus turn 1 and we hit an Ice Beam. With enough EVs in special attack, this secures a one-hit knockout. Exeggutor is Blue's second Pokemon. It takes a little bit of chip damage thanks to our ability, and an Ice Beam to the face just about secures a knockout, giving Tyranitar already 2 kills. Blastoise, Blue's ace, is out third, and I opt to stay in and Thunderbolt, which does a shocking amount of damage. Blastoise sets up the rain with Rain Dance and heals with its Citrus Berry. Thanks to the HP restored from the berry, Blue won't heal his starter Pokemon now, so Tyranitar can take him out with one more electric attack. This now brings out his Rhydon. Thanks to Blastoise setting up the rain, it's now powered up our only water type attack, Water Pulse. That's enough for Tyranitar to secure yet another knockout. Now is Alakazam. It has nothing it can do to me, and we have Crunch. He sets up a Reflect, and one Crunch from our absolute powerhouse destroys Alakazam, leaving only one Pokemon left. Arcanine is that final Pokemon. It comes out and intimidates us, but we're a special attacker. We outspeed and smash a Water Pulse, taking him all the way down to the red, and we get the Confusion. Arcanine then hits himself in Confusion, taking him to just a sliver. Blue now full restores, removing the Confusion and healing Arcanine, as we then land a critical hit Water Pulse to destroy Blue with just a special attack in Tyranitar. Now that was an easy first champion, but don't worry, there's plenty more to come, and I know this is going to get way harder. Let's move on to Generation 2. Lance is our champion in Generation 2. Well, technically 4 because we're playing Heart Gold. We can only add 1 Pokemon, yes, 1 to our team, and that's Weavile. However, against his team we match up super well. Lance leads off with Gyarados and we lead off with our Metagross. Thanks to Clear Body, Intimidate doesn't lower our attack stat. We can outspeed the Water Snake that's not a dragon but should be, and one Thunder Punch obliterates him, giving us our first knockout. Now Charizard comes out, the second dragon that's not a dragon, and we swap into Tyranitar on the Fire Fang, which does basically nothing to us. He then goes for a Dragon Claw that does nothing yet again, and we set up my favourite hazard, Stealth Rocks. This will do 25% to each of his team then when they swap in now. He hits another weak Dragon Claw as we miss a Stone Edge. He Dragon Claws us again the next turn, but when we do land a Stone Edge, Charizard goes down super fast. Now is Lance's ace, level 50 Dragonite. I don't know what moves come in, so I swap into Metagross. Thankfully he goes for an Outrage, which we resist and we don't take much from it at all. The next turn we outspeed and have Ice Punch, and after Stealth Rocks that makes short work of his ace and down he goes. Lance then sends out his 49 Dragonite, but that meets the same fate, and after Stealth Rock dies to a single Ice Punch also. Aerodactyl is Lance's next choice, but it's no match for us. It hits a weak Crunch and a Frozen Fist takes down the ancient Pokemon Aerodactyl. This leaves now his last Pokemon, the level 49 Dragonite. Just like everybody else that dared stand before Metagross, a super effective Ice Punch destroys him, giving us a victory over Lance. So far, so good. No deaths. Let's move on to Generation 3. In Pokemon Ruby, Steven is the champion. His team is pretty strong and we're now back down to 3 Pokemon. His lead is Skarmory and we lead off with our Tyranitar. We are still a special attacker, so one Flamethrower easily takes down the Steel Bird. Armaldo is Steven's second Pokemon of choice. Tyranitar yet again shows how powerful it is and hits a Surf for a second one-hit knockout. Third, Steven chooses Claydol. We outspeed and Surf again. This time we don't quite knock it out and he sets up a Light Screen, boosting his team's special defense. Steven then full restores Claydol and we hit an Ice Beam, but we're not even doing half now. I go for a Crunch and we put him back down on a Sliver as Claydol shakes the earth with Earthquake, doing a nice bit of damage to us. Steven then full restores again and we Crunch, this time doing half, and we get the defense drop. This means we definitely can knock it out now with one final Dark type attack. Steven's fourth Pokemon is Cradily. We outspeed and fire off a freezing Ice Beam that does a solid 75% to him, as he goes for a Giga Drain and it puts us in the yellow. We stay in an Ice Beam once more to take down Cradily. Fifth, Steven sends out his ace, Metagross. I don't trust that we can one-hit KO it, so we swap into Charizard for the first time. Metagross goes for a Meteor Mash that critical hits us, and after Sandstorm damage, we're at half. We outspeed the following turn, however, and hit a Flamethrower that does enough to take down Metagross and leaving only one Pokemon left. That last Pokemon is Aggron, and I can't stay in with Charizard, so I swap back into Metagross as he did in fact go for an electric move, Thunder, but thanks to Metagross's decent bulk, we tank it very easily. We now outspeed and hit a super effective Earthquake to take down Aggron and beat Steven. Tyranitar is an absolute monster for us, but even he can't deal with this next champion. Let's move on. Wallace is our next champion for Emerald. His speciality is water types, and I'm very worried on how our team will cope with this. So let's talk about Wallace. I failed this fight a lot. I had to restart over and over and over. Sometimes his Whiscash, like you're seeing now, would brick wall my team. Without a solid grass option, he was too hard to deal with. The main issue was Milotic too. We just didn't have the raw power to take him down, and one Surf or Ice move from him would often end the job and kill my whole team. Oh, and let's not even get started on Ludicolo, who could set up to max evasion, chip away at us with Leech Seed, then demolish my whole team with Surf. This fight was so RNG reliant and incredibly challenging to do. I think it took me maybe 20 attempts or over, but eventually and finally we get this battle. So our lead is Tyranitar into Wailord. We need a high roll to take it out in one hit, otherwise it sets up the rain and that's big trouble for my team. Thankfully we do, and Tyranitar takes him down with just one Thunderbolt. Next up is Gyarados. It hits a super effective Surf, but thanks to no rain, we take it reasonably well, and we can fire back with a Thunderbolt. Gyarados being 4 times weak to electric attacks doesn't stand a chance, and it falls. Third is Tentacruel. He outspeeds us and poisons us with Toxic. This usually isn't good. We hit a Thunderbolt though, and this does solid damage to him. A switch to Metagross now would be possible, but we can't really take any damage, so we stay in, and thankfully he misses his Hydro Pump, so Tyranitar can secure another knockout with Thunderbolt. Now another big problem, Ludicolo. We are starting to take big toxic damage and we need to switch. So we switch into Charizard and he sets up a double team. We have Fly, so we fly in the air as we dodge a Leech Seed. He takes some Sandstorm damage before our Fly connects, doing massive damage, and then he boosts his evasion even more. Unlucky for us, Sandstorm brings him to the red, which means Wallace will now full restore. We fly back in the air and we both take more chip damage from Sandstorm before we connect our Fly again, bringing him back down. Ludicolo surfs now and this destroys Charizard, putting us on only 22 HP. Then we take Sandstorm to 11 HP. We have to swap now, we have no choice. We can go into our last remaining healthy Pokemon, Metagross. We take the Surf reasonably well and Ludicolo gets hit with Sandstorm. Wallace heals again and we land a Meteor Mash for half of his HP. We outspeed the next turn, thankfully, land another Meteor Mash and take down Ludicolo. With 2 Pokemon left, the next is Whiscash. It has Earthquake, but we outspeed and Meteor Mash for a critical hit, bringing him to the red and raising our attack, as he just goes for an Amnesia. Wallace now full restores, but we have an attack raise and our next Meteor Mash does great damage to him. So we finally take down Whiscash without taking any damage with one more attack. Finally is Milotic. We are pretty healthy and we have a +1 attack, but Thunder Punch is special, I forgot this, and we do a good chunk as he hits a Surf that takes us to 72 HP. Now I hit a Meteor Mash, which leaves him on just a sliver as he goes for Recover to heal off the damage. He takes a bit of Sandstorm damage and then it activates his Citrus Berry, which puts him back in the green. Metagross's Meteor Mashes again, and this time we get a high roll and take down Wallace, beating Emerald. This was the toughest fight so far and I'm glad we got through it deathless. From now on we get to start adding Pokemon to our team too, so this should be fun. Let's head to Gen 4. But before we do that, I'd like to thank today's sponsor for the video, me. A massive 96% of you are not subscribed yet, so if you like what you see, consider subscribing. back to the video. Cynthia is a champion and she has a strong team with a lot of coverage. We now have Weavile on the team permanently, so we can potentially just destroy her. And yes, in the next video, we will be taking on Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl Cynthia. I'm pretty worried about that. Cynthia's lead is a Spirit Tomb and we lead off with our Weavile. We set up a Sword Stance to put us at a +2 attack, and a Silver Wind does a nice little bit of damage to us. Turn 2, we can hit a Stab Ice Punch, and at a boosted attack, Spirit Tomb stands no chance and goes back to the Ghost Realm. Cynthia's second Pokemon is Lucario. Luckily we have a fighting type move, otherwise we couldn't do much to him. We outspeed and a low kick does enough damage to pick Weavile up its second knockout. Togekiss is Cynthia's third Pokemon and it's part flying type, so one super effective Ice Punch takes it down and we're already halfway through her team. Now she sends out her ace Garchomp. It's 4 times weak to ISO and we outspeed. The Hammerhead Landshark goes down to a single blow and this is starting to look like a clean sweep for Weavile. Cynthia now sends out Milotic. We've seen just how devastating Weavile can be, so I stay in and go for a knockoff, but it actually doesn't do too much to this bulky water type at all, and a Surf to us brings us low. We can't take another attack, so we got to switch. Our only switch into water types attacks is Metagross, so we swap into him. A Surf is still doing nearly close to half though on the switch. We outspeed and electrify our claws and hit a Thunder Punch, and we critical hit, so the threat that was Milotic is no more. This now leaves Cynthia's last Pokemon, Roserade. I know it has Shadow Ball and I'm not risking any Pokemon, so I swap into Charizard. Roserade Shadow Ball does about 25% on the switch in, but now we outspeed, fire off a flamethrower and take down Cynthia's last Pokemon, beating Generation 4. That was a nice battle after Wallace. Let's move on to Gen 5. First up in Generation 5 is Alder, and like Cynthia, he's got a wide range of Pokemon with good type variety, and we now finally have a completed team to match against him with. We lead off with our ace Charizard. A Selgor really can't hurt us at all. We actually outspeed and a flamethrower just destroys him, giving us an easy knockout. Second Pokemon is Bouffalant, and our switch-ins for this are pretty limited. It has coverage for most of our team. We swap into Tyranitar and he hits a Stone Edge and we tank it reasonably well, but it still hurts us. We then connect to Stone Edge the next turn to bring Bouffalant low as he hits a super effective Mega Horn to bring Tyranitar to only 62 HP. I don't want to risk the Stone Edge miss here, so I go for a Thunder Punch and thankfully it does just enough damage to take down Bouffalant. Alder's first Pokemon is Druddigon and we have to swap. I go into Metagross as he hits an Outrage and we tank it like a champ. We outspeed the Druddigon and hit an Ice Punch and we get the freeze. Perfect. Then he suffers confusion from Outrage. Unfortunately for us, Sandstorm chips his HP a little bit too much and now Alder will go for a full restore. Our Ice Punch brings him all the way back to the yellow though, and we're starting to take damage from Rough Skin. One more freeze of our claws and an Ice Punch takes down Druddigon, but now we're in the yellow thanks to Rough Skin damage adding up. Volcarona is Alder's next Pokemon and this could be a problem. There is no way we are staying in, so we swap into Charizard. We have Air Slash and we outspeed, and this brings it to the red as it just sets up a Quiver Dance. After Sandstorm damage and Bug Buzz on the switch, Charizard has already lost 25%. Volcarona outspeeds and Hyper Beams but misses, so Charizard manages to take it down. If it connected, I think we lost Charizard there. That was lucky. His next Pokemon is a Scavalier. It's 4 times weak to fire, so one flamethrower makes short work of the bug. Alder's last Pokemon is an Ice Cream Vanillux, but he's also weak to fire, so Charizard can take him down with one more flamethrower, giving us a victory over Alder. But we still have another Gen 5 champion to go, so let's go do that. The other Generation 5 champion is Iris, and we recently did a run with her beating Pokemon X if you're interested in that sort of thing. The majority of her Pokemon are dragons, and I'm expecting Weavile to put in a good shift versus her team. So Iris's lead is Hydreigon, and we lead off with our Unfezant. We are faster, we hit a super effective U-turn that critical hits thanks to our ability. Then we go into Tyranitar, as Hydreigon does a little bit with Dragon Pulse. Sandstorm chips away at Hydreigon, so Iris full restores, and we set up our Stealth Rocks. The next turn, Hydreigon hits a Surf that critical hits us, that's basically just crippled our T-Tar, and we hit an Ice Punch, but we don't do enough to take it down. We've got to swap. We go back into Unfezant, who doesn't take a Surf well at all either, and that puts us on half as well. We can finally take it down with one more U-turn, and with that we go into our Charizard. Iris now sends out Druddigon as her second Pokemon. Charizard outspeeds and hits a Dragon Pulse, bringing Druddigon low, and he goes for a Rock Slide, but we dodge it again. That could have been the end again for Charizard. One more Dragon Pulse and we take down the second Pokemon. Archeops is now Iris's third choice and we swap into our Bisharp. We eat the Rock Slide pretty well and then he outspeeds and Rock Slides again. We don't get flinch thankfully, so one super effective Iron Head destroys the prehistoric bird. Iris's answer to us is now Aggron. It's probably going to go for an Automize, but we've got to swap anyways. It does go for an Automize on the next turn, raising its speed as we go into Metagross. Aggron now outspeeds and an Earthquake brings Metagross to half as we retaliate with our own Earthquake. But Aggron can't stand up to Metagross and it falls. Iris sends out Erase now Haxorus. It takes Stealth Rock's damage and that breaks its Focus Sash. So we swap into Charizard as Haxorus does go for an Earthquake. We outspeed Haxorus and a Dragon Pulse brings him all the way to a Sliver as he sets up a Dragon Dance, boosting his attack and speed. Thankfully, we still have Sandstorm active from Tyranitar, so it takes a chip damage and falls to the weather. This leaves Iris's last Pokemon, Lapras. Our team is pretty weakened at this point and we don't really have an answer for this. Weavile is our only healthy Pokemon, but it's pretty frail defensively and probably can't one-hit knock it out. I choose to go into Bisharp and Lapras hits a Surf to 44 HP. I stay in now thinking after Stealth Rocks and Sandstorm and Iron Head will take Lapras down, but it doesn't. But we flinch. That means one more Iron Head and down goes Lapras. RNG saved us here again and we're going into Generation 6 still deathless thanks to that flinch. Gen 6 and we have Diantha as the champion. Her team has a weakness to most of our Pokemon and now we have our own Mega Charizard X, so this might be the quickest battle yet. Hawlucha is her lead and I know this thing can't touch me from a previous run, so I Mega Evolve into Mega Charizard X. We then set up a Swords Dance, putting us at a +2 attack and he hits a super weak Poison Jab. Now we can go for a Tough Claws 2x attack boosted Dragon Claw and it's way too powerful and takes down Hawlucha in one move. Tyrantrum the T-Rex dies to one Dragon Claw also. Gudra can't stand to a boosted 2x Dragon Claw and falls in a critical hit as well. Aurorus, the Ice Dinosaur, dies to a single Dragon Claw as well. Galgeist, as tradition, can't live to a single attack either and falls without attacking me once again. This just leaves her last Pokemon, Mega Gardevoir. We outspeed and hit a boosted Earthquake, which is enough to show our dominance over Kalos once again, and we sweep Diantha with a Mega Charizard X. Let's head over to Alola. How is the person we fight to become champion here in Alola? And for once, I'm not too worried about his Incineroar. It's the other Pokemon I'm worried about. But after our Diantha sweep, I'm pretty confident with our team. How's lead is an Alolan Raichu, and our best answer is probably Metagross, so we lead with him. We get hit by a Thunderbolt that does half, and our Earthquake just straight up knocks out the Alolan Raichu. His swap into Metagross is Incineroar, and a Z move is definitely coming. Our best answer to it is Tyranitar. We swap in and set up Sandstream with our ability, and Hal does in fact start his Z move. We have good special defense in the sand and we resist it, so I'm hoping the Inferno Overdrive doesn't do too much, and it does close to half. Incineroar now hits an Earthquake to bring us to just a Sliver, and we connect a Stone Edge to knock it out. That's a threat taken care of. Now is Tauros though, another threat. We've got to switch and I go into Unpheasant on the Earthquake. Tauros double edges us for massive damage as our return critical hits thanks to our ability, but Unpheasant after Sandstorm damage is really low on HP. Crabominable comes out and has a massive attack stat. We've got to switch. I go into Bisharp expecting the Stone Edge and we eat it reasonably well. The next turn we can outspeed the Ice Crab and hit a super effective Iron Head for the one-hit knockout. Leafeon is Hal's next Pokemon and it doesn't really attack us, it just spams Charm over and over as we chip away with Iron Heads, slowly doing less and less damage. I eventually swap into Weavile, and as I do, Leafeon decides to finally go for a Leaf Blade and it does tremendous damage to Weavile. The next turn we can take out the annoying evolution with a Stab Ice Punch from Weavile. This now brings out Noivern. Not knowing if I'm faster, I don't want to take the risk and I swap into Charizard and what I thought would be a Flamethrower, as I forgot his moveset temporarily when I was recording, but he goes for a Dragon Pulse that does around half to us. He Dragon Pulses us again and it puts us on 11 HP as our Dragon Claw only does half to him. Now we're in a predicament. Well, I put myself in a predicament. Bisharp sorts of deals with his moveset well, but I was convinced it had Flamethrower at the time. Eventually, I do swap into Bisharp anyway, and he goes for a Dragon Pulse on us. This is where I make the stupid misplay of going into Unpheasant for the sacrifice, and this is when the light bulb finally went off in my head and I realised it doesn't have a fire move, so Unpheasant dies for nothing apart from my stupidity. Now I go into Weavile, and we do in fact outspeed, and Ice Punch takes it out. Honestly, I made a stupid misplay and our Unpheasant paid for it. You live and you learn. Let's move on to the Switch games. The first champion of the Switch games is Trace from Let's Go Pikachu. His Pokemon only really have 3 moves, but we only have a Mega Charizard available to us. However, my Charizard does have max AVs, so this is definitely going to be a close repeat of Diantha. Let's give it a shot. His lead is Pidgeot, and we lead off with our Charizard. We Mega Evolve into our Charizard X, and Trace Mega Evolves his Pidgeot into a Mega Pidgeot. With our max AVs, we are definitely faster, and we just obliterate Bejesus with a single Thunder Punch, giving us our first knockout. This then brings out his Marowak, but a massive Flare Blitz destroys his second Pokemon with no issues. Third is Vileplume, but there is no way it can stand to our mighty Charizard, and it falls to a Flare Blitz as well. This puts us at nearly half HP though, just from recoil alone. His fourth Pokemon is Slowbro. It survives a Thunder Punch, but it just goes for a Psychic, which doesn't do too much to us at all. So the following turn, Trace heals him up, and we bring him all the way back down with another electrifying Thunder Punch, and we get the Paralyze. Not that it matters, as Slowbro falls to just one more attack. Rapidash is Trace's next Pokemon, but we have Earthquake too, so the Fire Horse stands no chance and is swallowed by the Earth with an Earthquake. This leaves Trace's last Pokemon and his starter Jolteon, but there is also no chance he can stand to the might of our Mega Charizard X, and he goes down, giving us an easy victory over Trace. If we didn't have such a good attack AV and speed, we could potentially just be wrecked here, so I will take that. And it's also fitting that the 2 times we've used Mega Charizard X, it has swept. Let's move on to Generation 8. One of our final champions and Sword and Shield champion is Leon. His team is pretty strong, and we have swapped out our Unpheasant Death with Malamar, giving us a unique Pokemon with a unique ability that, if I play around, could potentially be quite fun. Leon's lead here is Aegislash, and if you guys have seen my challenges, you know the 2-word move I'm going to set up here, and it's Stealth and Rocks, as Aegislash just goes for a King Shield. Turn 2, we hit an Earthquake that doesn't quite take out the Sword and Shield Pokemon, and he retaliates with a Sacred Sword that nearly takes out our monster T-Tar in just one attack. The next turn, however, we can take it down with one more Earthquake. Leon's second Pokemon is Haxorus, and we have to switch. We go into our Charizard here, and he hits a weak Iron Tail, not doing too much to us at all. The next turn, we outspeed and hit a Dragon Claw, bringing him low as Haxorus outrages us, putting Charizard on only 4 HP. I'm not risking a speed tie, so I swap into Metagross on the incoming Dragon attack, and we eat it reasonably well. Haxorus now gets confused and breaks through and hits an Earthquake, bringing Metagross to the yellow, but we freeze our claws and take down the Dragon with an Ice Punch. Dragapult is Leon's next Pokemon, and it's got insane coverage. Our switch-ins are pretty limited. I know Metagross is not in Scarlet and Violet yet, so after being with us from the very start, he sacrifices himself and goes down to a Shadow Ball. Thanks for your service, Metagross. Metagross's sacrifice now gives us a free switch into our Weavile. We outspeed and an Icicle Crash to send the Ghost Dragon to its grave in a single ice move. Next up is Mr. Rhyme, the dancing Mr. Mime. It takes 25% to Stealth Rocks, and that's enough for Weavile to hit a powerful Dark-type attacking knockoff and secure yet another knockout. Inteleon is Leon's 5th Pokemon. We can't take it out in one hit, and Weavile is pretty frail defensively, so we swap into our Malamar, hoping it goes for a Mud Shot, and it does. Thanks to our ability, Contrary, think I said that right, doesn't lower our speed, it raises it, which is exactly what I wanted. Now we can Dynamax and hit a powerful Psychic attack in Max Mindstorm, but we don't do enough damage to take down Inteleon, but we do get up Psychic Terrain, so our next one is more powerful. Inteleon Mudshots us again, putting us now at a +2 speed, and this is perfect. One more Max Mindstorm and we take down Leon's Inteleon. This leaves his last Pokemon, Charizard. It immediately takes 50% of its HP thanks to Stealth Rocks that we set up earlier, and then he Gigantamaxes. Thanks to our now +2 in speed, and we are faster, a Max Rockfall obliterates Gigantamax Charizard, giving us a victory over Leon. We suffered another loss here, but it was worth it. Let's move on to our final champion. The last champion of the run is Geeta for Generation 9 and Scarlet and Violet's champion. With Metagross's demise, we've swapped in Alain's last Pokemon that we know of, and that's Chestnut. So we've now used every Pokemon he's ever had. Geeta's lead is Espartha, and we lead off our last battle with a Pokemon that started our first battle, Tyranitar. Espartha hits a Dazzling Gleam, doing over half of a critical hit, but our Tyranitar retaliates with a massive crunch, and that's enough to take down the Psychic Ostrich. Geeta's second Pokemon is Avalugg, and we swap into our Bisharp. Even though Avalugg has great bulk, our Iron Head is just way too powerful, and we do close to half. and we get the flinch. One more Iron Head from our Bishop and we take down the Ice Slab untouched. Go is Geeta's third Pokemon and I go into Charizard. We fire up our fist and hit a Fire Punch to toast the Goat with a super effective critical hit, and that makes short work of him. Geeta's fourth Pokemon is King Gambit, and what better time to use our newest team member, Chestnut. Can we just appreciate his model too? I love it. We outspeed and can go for a stab close combat that is 4 times weak to and take down the Samurai in just one attack. Geeta's fifth Pokemon is Veluza. I've got max speed and hoping we do as our defenses are dropped. We are faster and Chestnut picks up yet another knockout with a Seed Bomb. This leaves Geeta's last Pokemon, Glimmora. It terastallizes into a pure rock type and I know we are faster. Our Seed Bomb doesn't quite do enough damage to take down Glimmora though, and she fires off a powerful Sludge Wave that takes down Chestnut after he put in some really solid work for his first performance. In a fitting way to end this Alarm challenge, I go into our Charizard. With a mighty Earthquake, we take down Glimmora, finishing off the last champion, beating Scarlet and Violet and winning the run. So our total death count was a measly 3 for this run after all. I expected it to be a bit easy, but it did have its challenging moments too. I'm looking at you, Wallace. I really enjoyed doing this challenge as I love making them. If you have any suggestions on what you'd like to see next, be it a character or a solo Pokemon, let me know in the comments below, or you can vote on my community page too. If you like the content, leave a like and subscribe as there's so much more to keep coming from me. As always, if you're still watching, I appreciate it and I'll see you guys in the next video.